Skala Flayatu, good evening, and here's our news bulletin for tonight. Firstly, the Prime Minister told BCN in an interview last week that this third term will be his last. He also intends to revisit the constitutional review to increase the number of cabinet ministers from 4 to 6. Another highlight of the new government is Honourable Rhonda Siakia, who is the first member of Parliament under 40 years old to be elected to a ministerial role in Niue's government. Here's Nadia Helangi with that report.
In an interview last week, the Prime Minister indicated that this will be his final term in office.
And that is why I'm working hard for my term, as I already indicated, that this very likely, or this will be my last term as a leader. But I'd love to play a part after that in being mentor or help support the next government, because I believe by everyone working together and supporting the government today, whichever government that is, because in the end, if they succeed, and then the people will be well taken care of.
The Prime Minister has selected an all-new cabinet and told BCN News he is confident in his choice.
My selection of cabinet, that they are young, they'll probably also see that they are inexperienced, but let me assure the general public here that they have served in the House and they are sort of familiarised with the undertakings of being a member of the new Assembly, but more so that they have served as acting ministers when ministers travelled in the last term. So they're not new, but I guess they have learned, they've done their apprenticeship throughout those years, and I think they're going to do well.
The Prime Minister also intends to involve former ministers, Honourable Mona Ainuu and Honourable Sonia Talangi, who were both re-elected into Parliament, to represent Niue in regional and international meetings as part of his special envoy.
No one wants anyone to be burned out because of the workload, but that is the workload that had to be done. So we still engage also the former ministers. They'll play a vital role, especially when it comes to the travels to regional and international meetings, which are also been familiarized with, and they will be undertaking those roles as a special envoys of the Prime Minister in order for them to have a voice and to speak on Niue's matters and priorities.
BCN News has requested sit-down interviews with the new ministers and hope to bring this to you in our next bulletins.
The cost of fuel has gone up by 20 cents this week as the global fuel crisis continues. Prime Minister Tangilangi says there is sufficient fuel supply for the island, but the government is struggling to maintain subsidizing the cost of importing fuel to the island. In a press release, the government is also warning of further increase over the coming months. In the story, we hear from locals about the rising cost of fuel and their families are coping. And here's Nadia Helangi with that story.
Since the global fuel crisis began in February this year, the cost of fuel locally has increased 3 times. This week, the cost of petrol is $4 a litre and diesel will cost $4.20. Charlotte Mangtungia from Lakapa says it is costing her family more than $300 a week at the fuel pump.
So there's 4 working adults in our house, in my household, and there's 3 vehicles to run, at most maybe $300 a week to run those vehicles, and that's the distance from Lakapa to Alofi and back every other day of the week. Not to mention we have extra commitments outside of just work as well. So that is quite the challenge and the steep price to have to combat. One of the challenges of living on the further villages on the island.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Tangilangi explains that incremental increases will continue as spending close to $1 million to subsidise against shipping costs for the month of May alone is unsustainable. BCN News caught up with a few locals around town to find out how they are managing these high costs.
We're fine. We're guaranteed supply. If anything, it's the cost. The costs have risen significantly. Just what we we were expecting anyway. For an example, at the moment we're close to $1 million for what we have carried by selling the fuel at the lower price at $4 and $3.80 for the petrol. Diesel is the worry. Diesel is that the costs have rise significantly. The unleaded or the petrol is stable. So at the moment, a good example is that if we sell April's boat supply at the same per litre now at $4 and $3.80, the government will be carrying $704,000. And if the same applies to last week's boat, May, if we sell at the same price with no changes, it will set us back almost $900,000. So you can see the increase there in 2 shipments. So there will be, and that is why definitely we have to make some adjustments to the fuel, an increase of 20 cents across the board in order to lessen that impact on our national budget that the government's going to carry.
Another family who live in Alofi told BCN that their weekly fuel spending is around $250 because they travel at least 3 times a week to their bush garden in Hakupu. Business owner and local fisherman James Douglas says that their cost of fuel has also increased and that they are bracing for further increases.
The fuel increase for me personally hasn't increased that much, mainly because I stay close to where I work and I don't travel that much. But business-wise, fuel prices have gone up about 30% from what it used to be since the fuel has gone up. And I'm probably anticipating at least another 20% on top of that in the next year. So for us, on average, we're using roughly about $200 to $300 fuel. That was our budget before. We've gone up to around about $400 to $450, closer to $5, depending on how many deliveries we have in a day.
As we all adapt to the increasing costs, some residents are suggesting that the government look into public transport options.
It just says it means that people have to maybe travel less or carpool or have a public transport system in place where maybe a bus that goes around in the pick up people and bring them to Alofi in the morning, and then have another bus run sort of in the middle of the day and another one that takes people back home in the evening. So they may have to look at measures like that to help. I don't know. It's up to the government.
The government will certainly be reaching out and seeking for the funds in order to pay for that. So that is the challenge that the government has right now. But we're hoping that we don't know how long it's going to go, but we just want to minimize the impacts to our national budget.
Whatever the government decides to do over the coming months, it is clear that the reliance on fuel is going to affect everyone, including the government.
When the cost of fuel increases, the flow-on effects will be felt across the board. The high cost of living and the cost of goods is expected as an additional burden to the increased cost of fuel. Those more impacted are families who are very dependent upon imported or store-bought goods and residents of the outer villages. Last week, BCN News asked the re-elected Prime Minister, Honourable Dalton Tanghalangi, about the government's plans to tackle the high cost of living.
Residents need only visit the local shops to know what they are facing in terms of price increases. The Prime Minister, however, responds to concerns over affordability of these rising costs by reminding the country of the subsidised services that the government offers, such as free healthcare, free education and free water supply.
And I think we were saved by the resurface of the runway. It's a $40 million project and $20 million project for the roading. By the Chinese. That's how you count inflation. But let me say this also. The inflation we inherited from New Zealand. If inflation goes up there, of course we inherit that. And then, but how to counter that locally? We'll manage that with projects and keeps people employed and so forth. The economy, if we can see the growth in the last 3 years, it's a testament to all that as well. and will continue with projects in the pipeline for next year and the year after. We're looking to further growth, but at the same time, the challenge with the fuel crisis that we have to manage that as well. So I think we'll probably slow down some of this growth, but only time will tell.
The issue of cost of living will no doubt be front of mind for Prime Minister Tangilanghi as he prepares his first budget as Minister of Finance. Meanwhile, the people will await with much anticipation how the government intends to help ease the burden of the high cost of living.
The Economic Planning and Trade Division of the Ministry of Finance held a workshop to validate Niue's findings for a final report that would lead formalizing Niue's access to the European market through the European Union. PCN spoke with Ms. Seitaita Tupua from the Spirit Project of the Pacific Islands Forum Secretary that is helping Niue navigate this process. Here's that story.
So this workshop is funded by the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat. There's a Spirit project which I manage at the Secretariat that is supporting Niue and other countries like Niue that are AIPA observers to the EU Pacific Economic Partnership Agreement. So at the moment there are only 4 Pacific states that are parties to the agreement, and those are Fiji, Papua New Guinea, Samoa and Solomon Islands with the EU. So there are 9 other countries in the Pacific, which includes Niue, that have expressed their formal intent to accede to the agreement. And this workshop, one of the objectives is to validate the findings of the final report that we have prepared in acceding to the agreement, and hoping that it will be of great benefit, economic, social, and in other dimensions for the government and people of Niue.
Niue will soon have access to European markets as a destination bloc for the island's export opportunities. The Interim Economic Partnership Agreement, or AIPA, of the European Union provides the pathway for this access. The workshop is an opportunity to validate Niue's legal alignment and institutional framework to enable the assent to the AIPA, joining only 4 other existing Pacific Island countries in the AIPA agreement.
Niue has already been officially approved by the European Union to accede to the agreement. One of the urgent, outstanding steps that Niue needs to undertake is to send that formal notification of provisional application of the agreement. So this workshop that we are holding this afternoon is to provide the stakeholders in the Crown Law Office, Customs, Biosecurity, Trade and other relevant agencies, including the private sector, especially the private sector, because the private sector is the engine of the economy. So to inform them of what needs to come next, what needs to be aligned with in terms of Niue's legislative and institutional frameworks. So after this workshop, we'll need to finalize the validation report, the final report that will be coming out of this workshop, and that will inform the government of Niue and the stakeholders on when to submit that formal provisional application to the EU. So once the EU receives that formal notification from Niue, it will take at the most 10 days. 10 days to then Niue becomes officially the next party to the AIPA. So if that happens in advance, Niue is likely to become the 5th AIPA party.
Niuean playwright Diana Fuemana is the second artist in residence to take up the opportunity to build on a piece of work on the island. She arrived on April on a 6-week artist residency. The residency is part of the 3-year Memorandum of Understanding with MOU between the Government of Niue and Creative New Zealand under the Pacific Arts Strategy. Ms. Fuemana used the opportunity to further develop her play, Bird, into a movie. PCN caught up with the artist at one of her several workshops she held on the island for inspiring local artists. Here's that story.
The award-winning Niuean New Zealand writer and filmmaker, who is known to locals as a member of the famous Fuemana family, is the second recipient of the program, following Katrina Iosia's pilot residency in 2025.
I was selected as a Creative New Zealand Niue Artist in Residence in partnership with the Niue government and Chamber of Commerce. So I'm here to adapt an old play of mine called Birds into a movie, and I've been working on that for the last, I'm into the beginning of my third week, and it's been really great setting the story kind of in today's time, because I wrote this like 15 years ago. And obviously, Niue has changed from 15 years ago when it comes to youth and what youth are doing on the island, as well as in New Zealand. So it's an exciting time, kind of writing opening sequences and kind of getting the story thematically, like with even music that I have been listening to here in Niue. So yeah, it's been a really awesome time.
Diana says the opportunity to work on her play in Niue enables an artist like herself to develop her work while being fully supported.
Well, this residency allows an artist to be able to take time out of their life, I guess, and have full support wraparound with developing a body of work. My body of work is my screenplay, and it means a lot to have the support of the people here in Niue on a residency like this. Creative New Zealand also run two others in conjunction with USP Hawaii as well as Samoa. So this is a really unique opportunity for Niue and the island, I think, because you're going to get really interesting calibers of artists.
Ms. Fuemana's play, Birds, debuted at the Niue Culture Festival back in 2011. Her time in Niue was also spent workshopping with aspiring artists on practical skills and storytelling on stage and screen.
The Open Women Tri-Net Netball Series held its first tournament last Saturday. In a statement to PCN News, the president of the Niue Island Netball Association, Mrs. Carol Edwards, said how pleased they were with the turnout. A total of 8 teams from the villages took the courts at the Niue Primary School in Paliasi.
Carol Edwards says the Tri-Net tournament was introduced in 2025 as teams wanted to play more games. NINA tournaments have long featured both the very young up-and-coming players to the very veterans of the game. The teams contended with a few occasions of heavy to moderate rains as each team played 7 games throughout the day. This year's tournament was made more exciting with a 2-point super shot introduced for the second half of each game. This rule allows goal shooters to score 2 points instead of 1 when shooting from a designated area near the outer edge of the shooting circle. The Southern Ladies of Tama'awa took on this challenge, sinking 3 super shots in 1 game. The tournament rounded off with Tama'awa and Tamamaitoapa Royals at the top of the table, followed by Alufikula and Classic Rebels in 3rd and 4th place, Hakupu Stars in 5th, Eastern Force in 6th place, and Tamawaiawa Girls and Aliutu in 7th and 8th place. The tournament will be held on Monday 2nd of June on the King's birthday, and the final round will be played in the following 2 weeks. The series will conclude with a much-loved walking netball that will feature mixed men and women teams, followed by the tournament's prize giving. The NINA president says the walking netball has become very popular, with talks of a parliamentary team to join in the fun.
And that's our news bulletin for tonight. A news bulletin in Vangaha will be on again next Tuesday. Until then, Losana Sioniholo saying good evening.